When we think of Galileo, we usually think astronomer, but he was so much more than that. This guy didn't just study the stars, he completely changed how we see the universe itself. He was a rebel, really. Armed with a simple telescope and this radical belief in evidence, he went head-to-head with a worldview that had been set in stone for 2,000 years. Okay, listen to this quote from him. Philosophy is written in this grand book, the universe. It is written in the language of mathematics. Wow. With just that one idea, Galileo basically threw down the gauntlet. He was saying, hey, truth isn't just found in dusty old books. You have to read nature itself. And the language of nature? It's math. That right there, that was the key that was going to unlock a whole revolution. So to really get just how radical Galileo was, we've got to take a step back and look at the world he was born into. The entire universe, as they knew it, was based on the ideas of Aristotle from centuries earlier. It was a cosmos of, well, perfect order, perfect harmony, and most importantly, absolute certainty. And in this old cosmos, everything was just neatly divided. You had our world, right, the terrestrial realm, everything below the moon. And then there was everything else, the celestial realm, the heavens. And believe me, according to the rules at the time, these two places couldn't have been more different. And this division was absolute. Our world down here, messy, corruptible, always changing, made of 4 elements: earth, water, air, fire. But the heavens? Oh, they were perfect, eternal, unchanging, made of this divine 5th element called ether. On Earth, things fall in straight lines. Up there, everything moves in perfect circles. And this wasn't just some theory, you guys. This was considered fundamental, capital T, truth. This quote really shows you the mindset they were up against. If you challenge someone, a defender of the old ways, like the character Simplicio in Galileo's own book, they'd just appeal to common sense. Just look up, they'd say. The heavens look perfect. They don't change, do they? We see storms and decay here on Earth, but the stars are always there, constant. Case closed. That was the fortress Galileo had to find a way to break into. And oh, he did break into it. Galileo's weapon wasn't a sword or an army. It was a new instrument, one that let him see what no one, and I mean no one, had ever seen before. He was, quite literally, about to bring the heavens down to Earth. The year is 1609. Now, the telescope was a pretty new invention. Most people were using it to spot ships coming into the harbor, practical stuff. But Galileo, he had a different idea. He pointed it up, to the heavens, and realized this tool could be the key to unlocking the biggest mysteries of the cosmos. And what he saw? It was absolutely earth-shattering. The moon? It wasn't some perfect, smooth sphere. Nope. It was covered in mountains and craters, just like our own Earth. He saw that Jupiter had its own moons, which meant, wait a minute, not everything orbits us. And the sun, this supposed symbol of perfection, it had blemishes, dark spots that would just appear and then disappear. Can you imagine? Okay, let's just take one of those, for example, the moon. According to the old philosophy, the moon had to be a perfect, polished sphere. It just had to be. That was its celestial nature. Any shadows people thought they saw? Piff. Those were just dismissed as illusions, maybe tricks of our own atmosphere. But Galileo, he didn't just see shadows. He did something brilliant. He tracked how they moved as the sun rose and set across the lunar landscape, and he measured them. He proved with math that these shadows were being cast by massive mountains and deep, deep valleys. The moon wasn't a perfect orb of ether. It was a rocky, rugged world just like ours. And just like that, the barrier between the heavens and the earth, it was broken. So, how do you think the establishment responded to this? Well, with total denial. They argued the imperfections weren't actually on the sun or the moon. No, they were just illusions from the telescope lenses, or maybe figments of the air, literally anything to avoid admitting there was a flaw in the perfect heavens. But Galileo was a careful, meticulous observer. He dismantled these arguments one by one. He tracked the sunspots, showing how their shape changed as they moved toward the sun's edge, which proved they had to be on its surface, not orbiting it. He watched them form and then just dissolve. The sun wasn't perfect. It was dynamic. It was changing. And here is the absolute masterstroke. Galileo turns the tables by quoting Aristotle himself. He basically says, look, your own master taught that when what you see, your sensible experience, contradicts a theory, you have to go with the evidence. It was brilliant. He was using the founder of the old philosophy to tear the whole thing down. You see, the battle wasn't just about the stars, it was a battle over the very nature of truth itself. So, all this mounting evidence, it was all pointing to something much bigger. Galileo's real revolution wasn't just in what he saw, it was in how he saw it. It was about the new method he championed for understanding the world. This, right here, was the dawn of the scientific method. Think about it. The old way was to start with principles from ancient authorities, like Aristotle, and then just use pure reason to figure things out. But the new way, Galileo's way, you start with what you can see. You test your ideas with experiments, and you build your theories from the ground up, based on cold, hard evidence. You know, Francis Bacon, who was around at the same time, had a great way of describing it. He said it's like this. First, you light a candle. That's your hypothesis, your idea. Then, you use that light to find your way. That's your experiment. And from that experience, you draw your conclusion. It's this beautiful cycle of questioning, testing, and learning. And this new way of thinking, it didn't just stay cooped up in astronomy. Oh no, it spilled out, and it ended up creating the very foundations of the modern world we all live in today. This timeline really helps put Galileo's role into perspective. So you had Copernicus, who first published the theory that the Earth revolved around the sun. But it was just that, a theory. Then comes Galileo, who provides the hard, observable evidence to back it up. He was the crucial link. And in doing so, he laid all the groundwork for Isaac Newton, who would come along later and write the universal laws for this whole new cosmos. And the consequences were just immense. This new way of thinking led to the first scientific societies. It made experimentation the gold standard for finding truth. It gave birth to whole new fields of science, like modern physics and astronomy. And maybe most profoundly of all, humanity had to come to terms with a new, much more humble place in a vast, dynamic universe. I love this quote. It's from the open-minded character in Galileo's famous dialogue, and it just perfectly captures the new spirit of science. It's a call for humility, really, a warning not to make human abilities the measure of what nature can do. In other words, don't assume you know everything. Don't assume nature has to follow your rules. Instead, just look, observe, and be prepared to be amazed. So, when you boil it all down, this is the core of Galileo's legacy. He championed a simple but completely world-changing idea. When authority and evidence collide, evidence has to win, every single time. It's a principle that still defines the entire scientific endeavor to this very day. And that leaves us with one last big question to think about. Galileo shattered the perfect truths of his day just by looking at the world through a new lens. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What perfect truths that we hold so tightly today will be shattered by the observations of tomorrow?